Welcome back to Low Power Mode with Breezy. I am your host, Breezy, and today I'm in low power mode. Let's do it.
I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected,
Deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.
Hey yo, so there is so much going on in the world right now. It's overwhelming, but I want to look at the way that music intersects with social change today in the music section. So we're gonna check out a protest song, the official song of the protests in Iran right now. Let's do it. Music. All right, so unless you've been living under a rock, you are probably aware of the movement that is happening in Iran. I almost said featuring, thinking about it led by young girls and women, and it's extremely exciting. It's extremely horrifying because, along with revolution and protest comes violence, and Iran has been, not like super withholding when it comes to their response. But I felt like with all this going on, it would be great to talk about this Persian song by this Persian artist who, sorry, so tired today, so please bear with me. So the song is called Bayare. Please excuse my my lack of, good accent and stuff. So it's called Bayar, or Bayar, and it's by Shervin Hajipour. And this song is so beautiful, so special, so universal, while also being specific. It's really stunning. But this artist, they, in Iran, it's like illegal to like dance in the streets. It's illegal, like certain music, mentioning certain things is forbidden. Like music is like there's lots of crackdowns. There's lots of censorship on art because, it goes hand in hand with protest and going against the system. So Shervin Hajipour made this song, released it, and then it released it after September 16th, when which was I believe the death of Mahsa Amini. And so he released the song shortly after, and then was arrested by the cyber police in Iran. And I think currently he's out on bail right now, but they arrested him, and they asked him to remove the song from all social media. Luckily, it's still up on streaming and stuff, so you can check it out on Spotify or whatever streaming platform you use. But it's really beautiful. I think music goes so beyond language, so you can listen to the song and not understand it and understand it. But I want to read I thought today it would be interesting to read the lyrics and then read the author's comments from this website, Lyrics Translate. So they take the Persian and they translate it, but also there's these like notes that kind of go along with each line of the lyric. And I thought, Dan, this is so well done. So I have the link in the show notes, but I want to read this because it's really special, and lyrics are poetry, and I don't know, I appreciate it so much. So the song is called, it's like roughly translated to like for, or like because of. So the first line is for dancing in the streets. And the note is, according to moral codes rooted in Sharia laws, which are forced on the society, dancing in public is prohibited. For the fear when kissing. Then the note is, kissing or any sign of affection in public is considered indecency and is prohibited. For my sister, your sister, our sisters. There's no note for that line. For changing the rotten brains. So Supreme Leader, the note is, Supreme Leader is not answerable to anyone, and the state is based on a patriarchal system of ruling and old mullahs. For the shame of inability to provide, for being penniless. The note is, the gross domestic product of Iran is about the same as Bosnia or Albania, despite of bottomless oil and natural reserves. For yearning of just a normal life. For the dumpster diving boy and his dreams. So the note is reference to a young boy dumpster diving in the streets, being asked by a reporter, "What is your dream?" Innocently answers, "Dream? What is a dream?" For this planned economy. The note is, in Iran, almost all of the lucrative enterprises are state-run or owned by crony oligarchs who plunder wealth of the country together. For this polluted air. Air pollution in Tehran and other Iranian large cities are among the highest in the world. For Vali Asar Street and its tired, dying trees. There's two notes for this one. Vali Asar is the longest street of Tehran, stretching 20 kilometers, and trees along the street were planted over 100 years ago. For Pirus and his possible extinction. Pirus is a reference to states' disregard for ecological matters. Pirus is the name of one of the last living Iranian cheetah cubs. For the massacre of the innocent dogs. It is prohibited to own a dog or walk it. Raids to capture and kill dogs are not uncommon. For these never-ending tears. For the dream of a moment that will never happen again. Okay, so the note is, in the music video, a clip shows a photo of Dr. Hamid Esmailian sitting with his 9-year-old daughter, Rira, who was killed in Ukrainian commercial flight PS-752 in 2020, shot down by 2 rockets fired by Iranian Revolution Guard Corps over Tehran. For the smiling faces, for the students, for the future, for this heaven being forced on you. The note there is, strict moral codes rooted in fundamentalist Islamic iteration forced on society, which led to Masa Amini's murder. For the imprisoned intellectual elite. For the discriminated Afghan children. Afghan refugees in Iran have very limited rights. Until recently, their children did not have the right to attend school. I was blown away by that one. For each and every one of all of these fours. For all these empty propaganda chants. So the note there is children in schools on daily basis are forced to chant state-prescribed propaganda in form of ideological slogans like Death to America or prescribed prayers to the Supreme Leader. For the houses in rubble collapsing like a house of cards. Because of poverty, corruption, and lack of proper building codes and supervision, many buildings are poorly built, resulting in their collapse and mass casualties. For the feel of peace, for the sun after long nights, for all the pills for nerves and insomnia, for men, homeland, and prosperity, for the girls wishing they were boys. The note there is because of inequality. For women, life, freedom. For freedom, for freedom, for freedom. So that is the English translation of the Persian song Bayare or Bayar, written by Shervin Hajipour. And a fun fact about this song is that he wrote the whole thing from people's tweets. And in one video that I watched, like as he sings the songs, like the different tweets are shown. And so I thought, wow, like what a like hyper creative way to take the politics and the turmoil and the unrest and put it down in a consumable form that is very I think this song, the lyrics, not only do they apply to Iran, but to many, many places around the world. And I felt like, wow, this is really special. You can buy the song on iTunes if you're interested, if you like owning music. I got the single, and there's this really fun Asadi remix. So if you need the party version, there's that too. But yeah, I felt compelled to talk about this, not just because of the beauty, but because of the importance and the energy in the air. So that is our music section. Let's move on to TV. Television. Okay, so I know last week, yeah, I was super into Rami. This week I am into another Egyptian show. I was wanting to watch something else from the region. I was like looking for content, and my mom and I were like looking around on Netflix and stuff, and my mom found this series Finding Ola, and I read the description. It was about a woman who gets a divorce from her husband and finds herself. So similar stuff, like nothing new here, like a pretty basic story that we've heard before. But I am so into this show. I want to watch it for there's one season on Netflix that was released this year. It's like a 6-episode series, and I already want to watch it for like a third and fourth time. I don't know why I do know why I love it so much, and let me share with you. This show is held up by the actress Hind Sabri. No, that's the German. Sabri. I'm gonna try Hind Sabri. She plays Ola, and she also executive produces the show, along with another, like an Egyptian production company and Netflix, I believe. So, I'm a super big fan of, like women, cis women in any type of women in lead, cast as a main character and also executive producing. That's like the ultimate flex in the industry. And so this is the case here. And she's just brilliant. But the exciting and fun part about this is that she starred in a show in 2010 called Isa at Gavez. Isa at Gav. Oh, Isa at Gav. At Gavez. Isa at Gavez. Isa at Gavez. Okay. And this translates to I want to get married. And so the writer Gada Abdel Al, she was the writer for this show back in 2010, and then she also is the writer for the show in 2022. So I love that this show is like a new generation and continuation of a story. I think that's super, super special. And not only is Gada Abdel Al such a good writer, but the way that Hind Sabri, it's when you look at Gada Abdel Al's IMDb, there's 3 projects there and they all feature Hind Sabri. So I think she just knows this actor and knows how to write for her. And it's phenomenal. So it starts off with Ola and her husband Hisham, played by Hani Adel, and he also was in the original one. And so it starts off with them. They have 2 kids, Nadia and Selim, and it's a little joke in there that everyone wants to call him Selim, but it's Salim with an A. And so they're always like correcting people with the name. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's like a reference from the beginning or the earlier show. But they have these 2 kids who are, maybe like 11 and like 8, I don't know, 9. And the girl is older, Nadia. And they live in this nice house, and they're coming off as like the average kind of maybe upper middle class, maybe upper class Egyptian family. And so so you have this, it's a birthday party, and the opening shot is they're driving on the way to the birthday party. And so Hisham is like bothered and stressed because Ola wants to control things and is fussing about things. And in the back seat you have the 2 kids and Ola's mother, Zoher, who's played by Sausan Badr and was in the original TV show. And it's so the dynamic between her and her mother is so well done. Zoher just wants the traditional life for Ola. She just wants her to be married and be a good wife and a good mother. And that's like her main goal in life. And so Zoher, and then that's all you need to know for now. So they're at the birthday party, and Hisham has just had a heart attack at the age of like 45. And his mother is blaming the heart attack on Ola, and it's kind of like right off the bat, like she's criticized and is the reason why her husband had a heart attack, which makes absolutely no sense, but family dynamics. And so they come home from the birthday party, and on the way into the house, Hisham says to Ola that he wants a divorce. And she's absolutely shocked, does not see it coming in the least. I think she trusted that even though maybe there wasn't that spark anymore and that there wouldn't be a divorce, and yet. And so it just kind of she goes through the different like stages from that first pilot like episode, and it's just really interesting and wonderful to see. Like at first she's so confused, and there was this article that I read oh, excuse me. There's this article that I read in my research about the show, and it said in the article that like the very first thing that happens when Hisham asks for a divorce, her very first thing is, what have I done wrong? Which shows that she also exists with this like insecurity about not being good enough. And so it's so good from there, because it's kind of classic, like Hisham like doesn't really have a reason outside of like I fell out of love with you kind of thing, or like you're not the person who I like, just kind of we fell into a routine kind of thing. So people always say like breakups are easy when it's an asshole, or like someone in the relationship like does something and it's like fuck you. It's hard when no one has done anything wrong. But Hisham, he's had this heart attack, and he's kind of thinking, what kind of change do I need? And I think he lands on divorce. And so at first it's a bit difficult for Ola to wrap her head around it, but always with her children, like her daughter wants to take sides and like take her side. And she's like, no, this isn't about taking sides, he left me, he didn't leave you kids. And so there's a great lens, there's a great like kids lens. The eyes of the kids are definitely very present in the show, in like what it's like to go like have your parents go through a divorce. But Ola is just so funny. I love how like, I don't want to like stereotype or anything, but I've noticed that among Arab women, there is this similar style of like shade that happens. It's similar to the Black community, where the shade will be so creative and funny that like you don't even like, you have to figure it out like a comedy, like a stand-up comedy joke, before you fully grasp the thing. Like it's just a very funny manner, and I've seen it before, and so to see it portrayed on the screen, it's so funny. Like she just has this way of kind of like throwing energy back at people in this very funny way. But she's such a lovable character, and she's like, well, I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to be doing, but then she realizes, actually, that's never been me. And I'm sure this happens with many women who get a divorce and who are like, okay, my life is over, like that part of me is over, but then there's this whole new person that emerges. And I think it's so special to like go on this journey with Ola and see her like become empowered. And the plot lines are fun. They're really fun. Like at first it's like, okay, she has to figure out, they get the legal divorce, and then she has to figure out, okay, what am I going to do for money? And so she's kind of thinking about different things, and then eventually she gets invited to this party, and it's like she wasn't gonna go, but she ends up going kind of just to spite Hisham a little bit. And there's this person there who's a great like business leader and coach, and he offers to help her with a business. And she already naturally makes like homemade like balms and creams and things. Because she had a career as a pharmacist, she left her job from pressure from Hisham's mother to, you know, be a better mother or whatever and focus on the kids. And so she left her job, but she's still like involved in medicine in this way and healing. And so she makes these things, and so she's like, I want to turn it into a business. So she starts to like become empowered, and it's really cool to see. And it's once again like her mother Zoher, like I just love her role. She's so funny. She's like super critical of Ola, but also just like ride or die as well. Like she loves her daughter so much, even though she can't like be as emotionally available as her daughter needs her to be. And yeah, like when they start out with the business, Ola uses her mother's photo as the face of the products, and she doesn't tell her. And so when she first finds out, she's like, oh my, like she's very pissed off. She's very this, that. What is your brother gonna think? What is my sister gonna think? You know, I'm not wearing hijab in this, you know, a photo like this, you know, like real concerns. And but then Ola said, well, you know, I mean, I was going to give you some percentage because of course you earned that, but then and then Zoher changes her tune. It's very funny, these family dynamics. And like what you know, at first Zoher is like feels vulnerable not wearing her hijab, and but then with the right like amount of money coming in, that goes to the wayside. So it's very funny, the generational differences as well. Like you have Zoher's generation, very like repressed, you know, like just like her mother told her to just stick with it or suck it up kind of thing. And so it's just kind of like do as you're told. Then Ola's generation is more free, more liberated, but at the same time not as much as, you know, where the kids are at, the Gen Z, where they're on the phones and they're eating vegan and they're doing this and that. And so Ola is somewhere in between. Some things that I really liked about the show, again, related to like the plot, and I think the pace of the show is really good. Like it moves very quickly. But Ola ends up finding reuniting with her best friend Nesarine, played by, what is her name? Her name is Nada Musa, who plays Nesrine. And Nesrine is like this kind of very feminist woman who doesn't feel any pressure to be married and is very like kind of rough and tough. And so apparently Hisham, when Ola got married to Hisham, Hisham asked her to stop hanging out with Nasreen, which I'm sure happens so often in relationships. And so once she gets a divorce, she calls up Nasreen, and then they're able to like pick up their relationship, and that's really fun. And Nasreen like takes her out and gets her kind of thinking about, okay, you can date people now, you can do this, you can do that. And then and then Nasreen wants to be part of the company, and then they find like a professional like sniffer, like this person who's studying to be a nose, or like someone who works in like perfumes and scents. And so they recruit him to do their accounting, and now they have this little team, this little company. And so she gets a space and everything, and it's really cool to see, like, okay, cool. She immediately goes into like small business ownership. Awesome, badass, you know? Not that that's easy, but it's really cool. And so she also she they do a really funny bit about like dating apps and stuff, and she like swipes in real life like on these guys she meets on these apps. Eventually one guy ends up kind of scamming her, even though he seems like he's very sweet. And then she eventually is at the gym. She she wants to feel like a little bit younger or something, a little bit more like fresh. So she goes to the gym, and she meets this younger guy. Now there isn't like a major gap between them. He's probably like 33, 32, 33, and she's about to turn 40. So they have this cute little conversation, and they talk about like a bucket list and stuff, and she kind of like names what would be on her bucket list. And then she ends up meeting up with this guy again, and he immediately wants to like take her down her bucket list. So it's really fun to see her do these things, like ride a motorcycle, get a tattoo, watch the sunrise out in the sands, like go sandboarding. It's just so cool to see this like woman really taking hold of life in this way that she couldn't for many, many, many years because of the patriarchal structure. Meanwhile, Hisham has started dating this social media influencer named Omnia, and she, like, let's say Hisham is 45, Omnia is probably like 30 maybe. So I mean, she could be in her 20s. So obviously such a double standard when it comes to men and their acceptable age of women, or young women that they'll date, and then women and what age they can date. And so, and even with her son, who doesn't really understand the divorce and everything, he can stomach his father. I mean, he's not happy about who his father has chosen, but he's not unhappy that his father is dating. Whereas with the mother, he's like, no, I can't see it. Not you, Mom. Actually, both the kids are like, not you, Mom. And it's so interesting. There's this one part where after they both kind of like are dating these younger people and everything, Hisham says to her, he actually, Ola goes out for her birthday. She calls a taxi for the kids from their school to the home. So instead of giving them a ride, because she wants to go out on her birthday. Her husband didn't want to help her out with it at all, said he had his own plans. And unfortunately, the kids ended up at the police station because the driver had like drugs on him. So this one time where she's like, oh, I'll just, I'll kind of put myself first, and, I'll make sure the kids get home, but I want to still be able to go out. And so after this, this episode is full of spoilers. Like I'm spoiling the Finding Ola show. After this, Hisham threatens to take custody of the kids after this one fuck up. If it's even a fuck up. And so, wow, and so they're having this conversation afterwards where she comes and she's like, please, you can punish me, do whatever, but don't take custody of the kids. And he's like, okay, I'm not going to take custody of the kids. And it's like, geez, can you not threaten that then if you're not going to do that? But he says to her, with us like both acting younger and dating younger people and all this stuff, It's different with women because our society sees women as sacred. And I'm like, wow, like what an enveloped, like how do I say, like cloaked way of of affirming the double standard, like, okay, no, you're just too sacred, like you remind me too much of my mother, so like you can't go out and do what I'm doing. On top of the fact that the age difference, she gets all this criticism and stuff, and the age difference between her and her like younger date is not as much as Hisham. So as an intersectional feminist, this show was an orgasm. It was such a win. It was like, yes, this is the type of writing and shit and like stuff that I want to see. I want to see older women, you know, who are under the patriarchy like break out. It's so inspirational and intergenerational, and I I I love this show. I'll talk about one more thing. There's this like camp that the kids are really excited to go to with Sham. It's like a father's camp. And so like for one of the episodes, it takes place out at the camp, and what happens is Hisham gets sick, so he cannot go to the camp. So Allah takes the kids to the camp, and even though the camp director is not okay with her being there, she says, "These are my kids. I'm going to stay." And her neighbor backs her up. And so there's a whole thing with the neighbor too, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So they do this camp, and it's like bonding, and the camp director takes the parents' phones, and that becomes this whole thing. But I really liked how they built in these conversations. So they had the parents, before they get to the camp, I guess, or right when they get to the camp, they have the kids write letters to the fathers, and the fathers write letters to the kids. And so part of it is like them sharing those letters with each other. And it's so cool to see, because so often in society, like we just don't have that lane set up for fathers to emotionally bond with their kids. And so it's really beautiful to see like some of the like conversations and little conflicts and things that come up through these exercises. And yeah, I don't know how else to talk about it. You gotta just watch it. If you're interested, definitely check this show out. It is so good. I am desperately awaiting the second season. They left it on a great like cliff, and where essentially it's like Hisham has another heart attack, and then he wants to like kind of like move back in with her and have her take care of him, and also move back into the relationship. But she's like, "What are you moving back to? Like, no." She essentially says like, "No." But yeah, it's really, it's the dilemma. Like, I don't know. It's so realistic. It's so good. It's like a dramedy. Like the comedy is really in there. The dubbing and stuff is super interesting. I mean, I watched the Egyptian like the Arabic version, the original version with English subtitles. Netflix wanted to play it with English dubbing, but I was like, no, I need to hear the Arabic. But interestingly, Netflix is going like this new way, or not new way, but like they kind of did this whole like diversity thing. They started in the US, and then it became a little played out in my mind. But then internationally, they're really doing a lot with like partnering and getting these stories told. So like I appreciate Netflix a little bit more now that I've seen the show and seen what they're kind of doing with it. So this article from EgyptianStreets.com that I will post in the show notes is it says Finding Ola sets a new standard for Netflix Arabic original productions, and it says that here it is, that there's dubbing in 4 languages and subtitling in 32 languages. So this article says it is clear Netflix intends for Finding Ola to set a new standard for its Arabic language productions. I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, and I'm also like very motivated to, I already was motivated to learn Arabic, but after watching the show, I'm like even more motivated. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I highly recommend this show, and especially in the wake of women fighting for freedom over in Iran. It's great to see. This show that shows this woman who is breaking out of the structures of the patriarchy. It's really great to see. So I'm gonna wrap it up there, and let's move on to film. Movies. Film. And we're back. For me, it's more me being back because I took a break of a couple days in between doing the different segments. And in that time, I was going to do a different film for this section, but the film Wendell and Wild popped up on my Netflix, and I saw Jordan Peele's name, and I was like, okay, I gotta see what he's up to lately. So this movie Wendell and Wild was I think Jordan Peele and Wynn Rosenfeld executive produced, or maybe they were just producers, but Henry Selick, who is responsible for The Nightmare Before Christmas, worked with Tim Burton. They did this like stop motion animation Halloween movie that centers around this black girl and this black family and these demons. And so it was great because usually I'm not like trying to like stick on theme necessarily for this podcast, but I thought I don't know, I didn't even think about intersectional Halloween stuff on TV and film. Like there's some classic stuff that we all know and love, but like intersectional, And so when this popped up, I was like, oh, this is awesome. They're giving us like Tim Burton style Halloween film with a black family. So thank you to everyone involved. Wendell and Wild. So it even though it kind of focuses on this girl, Kat, she's the main character, you also have Wendell and Wild, who are the main characters, and they're played like quite obviously both in the voice and in like the way that their characters look in the animation. It's Keegan, I always forget which one's first, and Jordan Peele, who did Key and Peele, the sketch comedy show, together. So it was great to see them like back in that role in an animation. And the premise was that their father's like Beelzebub, like some form of Beelzebub, and he's got this scream fair, and there's ghouls, and there's this and that, and his sons are responsible for helping his hair to grow with this like hair cream and hair plugs. And so they're kind of like just destined to just do whatever their father wants them to do. And then Kat is this other story that's happening, where when she was a child, her family had this brewery. It was called Rust Bank Brewery in the town of Rust Bank. That's where it's set. I'm guessing like a Midwestern, like a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or like a Chicago, like somewhere outside of Chicago. I don't know. And so maybe Ohio. And so her parents have this great brewery, and there's pressure from this family, the Claxons, to build a prison. And you hear the father on the phone saying, I told him, like, more beers, less prisons, So it's got this like undercurrent of anti prison industrial complex. And tragically, they're driving home, and the girl Kat takes a bite of an apple, and there's a worm in it, and she kind of shrieks, and her father looks to see what's going on and drives off of this bridge, like accidentally drives off of this bridge. And so her father seems to have died upon impact on the water, and the mother survived, but told Kat to, hold her breath and then swim to the top. And the mother, we can assume, stayed in to check to see if the father was okay, or if there was, or maybe she just gave up. But Kat, swims up to the top and never has her parents like come up. And so she goes through rough years, where she's in the juvenile detention like system. And so talk about prisons, like she's kind of like in and out of foster care or these juvenile detention. And then she gets sent to this school where she's supposed to straighten up and stuff. And so the story is so it's so sweet. Like there was a lot going on with this movie, and I felt like it set itself up for another movie, because there was a lot that wasn't explored that could be, like there's this nun at the school who voiced by Angela Bassett, and her name's Sister Helly, I think, and she is a Hell Maiden like Kat, and so they both have this same marking on their hand, and she ends up using her status as a Hell Maiden to help Kat ultimately get over her trauma. So, and they have the demons, played by Jordan Peele and Michael Keegan-Michael Key. She has there's this metaphorical personal demons, and there's like actual personal demons for Kat. And so it's cool to see someone's trauma be represented in such a like creative and playful way, I think. And it's this like animated horror film where it's not horror in the sense of like blood or gore or death. It's more about like the story that you tell yourself, like narrative trauma. And so for her, she has told herself the story that she killed her parents, and everyone who gets close to her dies. And she has this cognitive behavioral like training that is really detrimental. And so it's kind of represented by the demons. And she has this friend Raul who is an artist, and his mother, but she calls him not a friend. She like says that they're not friends because she doesn't want him to get hurt. You see the type of trauma like thinking that she has. And so Raul's mother is a detective or a lawyer or something, and she's trying to prove that this fire that burned Kat's parents' brewery down was not an accident. And so it's a classic kind of plot and stuff. There's a family whose daughter goes to the school with Kat, of course, who the family, they have this, they're the ones who are wanting to build the prisons and have other prisons, private prisons, um and also they have this deal with like juvenile detention centers where they go to the school gets paid to take them in by this Klaxon group. And so you have that kind of dynamic happening, and eventually, like at some point, Kat tells the I forget her name, but the daughter of these prison people, she tells her like, have you ever been inside a private prison, and kind of like slams the door in her face, and which prompts the daughter to look stuff up about prisons, I'm assuming, and then she confronts her parents and like stands against her parents with building the private prison. And so it's a little bouncy back and forth between the story with the demons and what's going on with Kat. But overall, there's some really great themes in this film. And something that I really, really, really loved, obviously, because I'm so into music, was the score, the soundtrack. Not only did they feature a lot of black punk rock bands, such as like Death and Big Joni, but also the score, in the score they had some original songs about this hair cream that brings people back from the dead. So when I heard the lyrics, I was like, oh, this is definitely made for this film. And it's really good music. I was so surprised. Sometimes the music that's made for the film is not going to be music that you're going to want to would ever want to listen to, but it's just really strong, really sort of funky and rock and roll. And so it was awesome to see also that like Henry Selick, who again worked with Tim Burton on The Nightmare Before Christmas, he wrote the lyrics to the songs, the original songs in the score. But this score was so great. I have a little list of songs somewhere. Oh yeah. So there was, just to name a few, I really like this song Ghost Town by the Specials. There was River by Ibeyi. The You Sexy Thing by Hot Chocolate. Young Gifted Black and Leather by Special Interest. What else? Cult of Personality by Living Color. Wolf Like Me, TV on the Radio. Like I used to love TV on the Radio. I haven't listened to their new stuff, but this film, the soundtrack really made me want to get back into like my punk rock phase. So it was fantastic in that aspect. And it's just simply refreshing to have content. Ugh, I almost hate that word content, but media, let's say, that just so naturally has people of color at the center, and real issues that people of color deal with. It's not like they're threatening to throw Kat, this young black girl, or Raul, this young Mexican boy, excuse me, into the prison, but you see how everything relates. You see how the different pieces of the puzzle come together. And yeah, once again, Jordan Peele using a real sociological issue as a device in horror. I just love it. I love it. I don't think every single thing that Jordan Peele does is a triumph, but I think this is. I saw some criticism, someone, something about unfocused, maybe plot lines, something about is it wild enough, but overall this is a super solid film, and I'm so happy to have like a little Netflix go-to that intersects a black family and especially like a black girl's trauma and Halloween. I don't know. It's cool. I'm with it. So that is going to wrap up the film section, and let's move on to the outro. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself.
Check in with yourself.
All right, so two kind of things in the outro today. The first is, yeah, you've noticed probably that this isn't a weekly. I'm not hitting the podcast right on the week point. But I am figuring I want to play with like a new maybe format. I find that having a new it's really the TV and film, like having both TV and film in the same episode is a lot, just because like week to week it's like a lot to kind of watch and consume, along with some of the other things that are picking up for me, which is good. But I still I love this podcast so much, and I want to prioritize it. So I'm thinking about, similar to some of the other episodes where I've just reviewed an album or something like that, I'm playing with the idea of an assortment of a selection of a song or album, TV show or film, like, and or, versus every single one each time. Let me know what you think about this. I'm interested, especially if you listen to other podcasts and you have like a format that you really like to hear and expect. Just let me know your thoughts if you're interested. Also, the second thing. So, my mother's friend sent an article for her to give her opinion on. And the article was called Let's Say Gay. It was titled Let's Say Gay. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is like a rebuttal to Don't Say Gay. This, the law in Florida where like you can't even say the word gay. And so I was psyched to read it when my mom showed it to me. And then it went so quickly downhill from there. The author, Pamela Paul, she made this argument essentially that queer, the word queer, excludes people who identify as gay and who don't want to identify as queer, and that it takes something away from the gay, rights movement. And her within the article, it's really questionable. Like, she contradicts herself. She uses dictionary.com to define gay. She poses that gay has never been used like pejoratively. She's like, gay has always been like lighthearted and happy. It just gets worse from there. And of course, like, reading online, you can see her little picture and bio next to her name. And so it's like Pamela Paul, and she's got this like shoulder length blonde haircut, and she lives at home with her husband and 2 kids. And I was like, what the fuck? How is this woman who, and she talks in the article about having gay friends and that they have said and David Sedaris also thinks, why are we using this word queer? Who asked anyone to change it? Like, it was so offensive because it was like, who are you to speak on this issue? But more importantly, which editor read this article and was like, yep, this is ready to go to the press? Like, shame on you. Shame on you for having a straight appearing woman write a whole ass article about the words queer and gay. Is it not? I just don't understand how it's too much to ask to have like an actual person who's a part of the LGBTQ plus community write this article. Like, how is that too much to ask New York Times? And I remember when I got the New York Times, not when I got it, when I was living with my parents and they were getting it, and I loved having a newspaper. Oh, I love newspaper. Like, I love the paper. I love flipping through. I love the big photos. It's so much better than reading shit on your phone. But I noticed in their reporting about Trump, it felt like it was instigating, and it felt divisive. And I guess maybe I wrongly assumed that the New York Times would have like a liberal or left-leaning slant to it, and maybe it simply doesn't. I'm sure that many, like any industry, many people at the top are white, cisgender, straight men. But I was like, man, in 2022, I mean, we're used to Black folks like getting excluded from opportunities and jobs and things. We're very used to that. I think within the like white gay community, there's this like sense of like victory, like we've come somewhere. And it's like leaving behind so many. And so it would be one thing if you had like a white queer person writing about intersectionality within the queer community. Like, it would be like, well, it would be great for someone who wasn't white to be writing about intersectionality in the queer community, but at least it's a queer person. Whereas this is just like, she called the article "Let's Say Gay," and it's clearly about queer versus gay. So once again, shame on the editor who allowed this woman to jizz her white woman thoughts over something that is really an issue. Like, could be like, there could have been a strong piece that said something about this argument of queer versus gay, and then come to this conclusion, like, it would be great. It would be interesting, like, whether or not you identify as queer or gay or whatever, it's everyone in these identities are standing against, heteronormativity. It's like, seems pretty basic and straightforward to me. So yeah, fuck you, Pamela Paul, for pitting the queer community and the gay community against each other. We already have these divisions within the community, and we don't need your white soccer mom ass up here talking about what your friends think about the word queer. Like, please just stick to your experience, your cisgender white woman things. Okay, thanks. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Have a happy Halloween and be safe, of course. Ciao.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.